Hey everyone, Jeff here from Films at Home. Thank you for coming back to the podcast today. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening along on your favorite podcast apps, I appreciate you all. Today's episode is going to be a really good one. We're taking a little bit of a shift away from purely physical media, but still very much movie related, collecting related. We're going to be talking to Ben Scrivens, who is the president and CEO of Fright Rags. Now, if you're watching on YouTube right now, you probably see I'm wearing my Fright Rags Boogeyman Club Halloween t-shirt. And Fright Rags has been around for a while, and they have pretty much, in my opinion, the best collection of horror movie merchandise, from shirts and pins and posters and merchandise just across the board, with so many great franchises that they've been able to license out. So it's really interesting to talk to Ben, because we're going to talk a little bit about like entrepreneurship and how that business started. We're going to talk about licensing the movies and the rights issues that he has with t-shirts, the same sort of thing that affects physical media. And we're also going to talk a lot about his collection and, you know, how he curates a horror movie collection, some of the really unique things he has in his collection, how he feels about physical media, that whole thing. So it was a really good conversation. I really like Ben. I love Fright Rags a lot. I love their shirts and their merchandise, and I support them. So really happy to have Ben on the podcast. And if you guys didn't know this, there is a discount code for Films at Home. So whether you know Fright Rags already or you want to buy something from them after hearing Ben's story, the promo code Films at Home 10, all one word, 10 at the end, Films at Home 10, that gives you 10% off at frightrags.com. So really, really cool stuff. And I'm glad they've partnered with us to give our listeners and viewers a discount. So sit back and relax, enjoy this interview, and I will talk to you guys when it's over. All right, guys. So I'm here with Ben Scrivens from Fright Rags. Ben, thanks for hopping on the podcast today with us. I really appreciate the time, and this is pretty cool because I've been a Fright Rags customer for a while, and so now to be able to talk to the man in charge is a pretty cool deal. So thanks for coming on today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on too, because I've been a fan of yours for a while. So it's cool to be talking to you too.
That's awesome. I see we are both rocking the Halloween shirts. I had to make sure I was wearing my for the YouTube viewers. Yeah. I've got the that's sort of like the classic poster there. You've got, is that like the TV?
Yeah, it's the TV ad. Yeah, so it's got like the TV. And the cool thing about this, real quick, is like I made sure to add. You can see it here. It's that channel 31. Now, obviously, this says the first time it was on TV. It's obviously that was NBC in 1981, but 31 is my local Fox affiliate. It was the local Fox affiliate when I was a kid, before we had like the Fox channel, before that was a thing. So that was the logo I would always see, because that was what they showed horror movies on. It was like, it wasn't cable. It was, regular local TV. So we always added that to our shirts. Plus 31 Halloween, 10/31. It kind of makes sense too.
That you're right. It's a good tie-in. Yeah, I love that one. I've got the new. I think this is a newer design, unless it was reprinted.
Because it was reprinted. Yeah, that was a reprint. We did that. Oh my God, it could have been 2 years ago already. I can't remember now. It might have been 2020 or 2021. We originally released that, and then we did a reprint for Halfway to Halloween.
Yeah, so I've got for anyone not watching and listening, I've got the Boogeyman Club, which is like a play on the Babysitters Club, which I loved, because growing up, you see these all over the school library, and I was like, oh my God, the Boogeyman Club, that's so great. She's babysitting. It was such a great tie-in. It was really, really good idea, really fun shirt. So I love this stuff. I love horror movies. So you guys have always been my go-to for the merch. So it was super cool to get to work with you on a couple things. We did a couple quick ads, and I have a promo code for people, so we'll plug that at some point at the end. But it was just awesome to get in touch with you and like actually work with you guys. It was like surreal for me. So much appreciated. Cool. It's an easy thing for me to work with you, because everyone, loves your stuff, and I love the stuff. And obviously a lot of people listening and watching love the shirts and love horror movies. If they're following me, they probably know that by now. So this is just super cool. So I'm fangirling a little bit. But anyway, I wanted to ask, like, you guys, so you're out of New York, right? Because I always thought, for some reason, I was just having in my head that anybody who's doing this sort of stuff is in LA. But it turns out you guys are a lot closer to me than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, we're not even near New York City. We're upstate New York. Like
Right.
I always tell people we're Canada because we're only an hour away from the border, you know? You're right though.
Right.
Like LA is definitely like the hotbed. And if you look at our sales and our demographic and even the territories we sell in, LA is by far the biggest city in the country that we sell to. That is always number one. And then, it's a mix after that. It's usually like, you've got like Texas and like Dallas and there, New York City and Chicago. And so, obviously the major cities and other things. But
Yeah.
LA is just like, if you look at a heat map, it's just like, boom, it's just huge for where we sell.
Yeah, I figured because it was surprising. I just assumed. I was like, obviously entertainment, LA, but Rochester, New York, right? Which I've been up there. It's like what? It's like an hour from Toronto-ish.
It's it's an hour from the border, and then Toronto's another couple hours away from that. So you could get to Toronto in about 3 hours, depending on the line at the border. If you can get right across the bridge, you're good. But sometimes that takes a while. But we go to Toronto a lot. I love it up there.
So do you have a lot of sales going on up there too? Is that kind of popular in the area? Are you guys doing like shows and stuff in that region?
Well, we do have sales in Canada and Toronto. We don't do any shows over the border. Like Niagara Falls has a big show, and that's really close to us. The problem with is getting all that merch across the border.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of effort and a lot of paperwork. And I've heard horror stories where you get pulled over and next thing you know, like you're screwed basically. And honestly, it's not worth it. It's not, I mean, I know we could probably we do some shows, mostly Monster Mania in Cherry Hill outside of Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's outside of Philadelphia. It's right across the Ben Franklin Bridge into Jersey. And we do some Horror Hound, and we've done the Halloween convention in Pasadena before. But it's not something we have to do for the business in terms of like a revenue, even though we do make money there. It's travel costs. There's a lot of time. So we tend to not do a lot of shows these days because it's just we're so busy doing other things. I like going to shows and seeing people and customers and stuff, but like a lot of my friends during COVID were decimated because they relied on shows and they didn't really have another presence or too much of another presence, where we're always like online is our business, and then going to shows is just sort of a fun thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys do a great job online. I see the stuff everywhere. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, I work in marketing. We're seeing the same thing everywhere where it's like, shows are less important than how many people you can get this stuff in front of. But I'm curious, how did it all start? Where did it all come from? How did you become, the horror movie merchandise guy, essentially? I mean, that's, you're the biggest one I know of.
Well, I appreciate that. It really started out of this desire to do something creative. Like I've always had this creative streak. Like I've always, like as a kid, I wanted to be a comic book illustrator. I wanted to be a filmmaker. I went to school for that. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be my brothers and I had a band. I wanted to do that. So always about creating something. I just never really stuck with anything. Like as much as I liked drawing, I didn't really take it anywhere further than in my bedroom sketching with my friends or whatever. Same with music. I mean, we play gigs around town, but it's not like I went touring or anything. So it was, I finally parlayed all that like love of art and things into college, where I went to school for graphic design. So I knew I could get a job maybe, because I actually really did like the design element of it, how you put things together and composing things, not just the drawing element or the other elements. It was all of those things together and how they fit. So I did go to school for that. And when I got out of school, I got a job in graphic design, and I was working for a really small company. We were doing laptop bags. We designed and manufactured laptop bags, but it was literally, I was the third person hired. And that was great because I got to really see how business was working. And it was a website that we sold primarily on our website, but we also sold to wholesalers. So I was taking product photography. I was doing the website design. I was doing all these things. But I just had this desire to like make something and sell something, not necessarily to make money, just to be part of something. And at the time, and we're talking 2003, when I started Fright Rags, there was no Facebook or even MySpace at the time or anything like that. There was all these horror message boards. And I was, as a fan, because I've been a fan of horror all my life, I was on these message boards all the time. And some of the message boards I would go on would be like people that would made masks and like stuff, like stuff from the films that I love, like a Michael Myers mask or a Freddy glove or something like that. And I thought, what could I do? In high school and in college, I was actually screen printing a little bit in classes, like my art classes and stuff. So I always liked kind of weird and quirky t-shirts. Like I was kind of known for that in high school. And just because I liked, like just the different skate companies, I would wear certain stuff or whatever. And I thought I never owned like a horror shirt. Like I love horror movies and I love like weird t-shirts. Why haven't I ever owned a horror movie t-shirt? Like I think I owned an Anchor Bay promo Halloween one from the 1998 release or something, right? So I went looking online, and the only thing I found at the time that was anything close to what I would have done or wanted to do was a company called Rotten Cotton, started by Sean Lewis. And he had a magazine back in the 90s, and I think he kind of parlayed that into doing t-shirts, and he screen printed. And that was cool stuff, but it was a little edgier than I was looking to do, and it wasn't the same style I wanted to do. So I started thinking, what can I do that's different? And I came up with this concept. I don't know how it came up with it, but one day I thought of, like, I just see these bumper stickers and things all around, like, what would Jesus do? And I was like, what would Jason do? You know what I mean? And I thought that was funny. To me, it spoke to me as a fan because I thought, oh, that's kind of funny because it's very tongue-in-cheek. So I did this WW hockey mask for the J and then D and a question mark. And I thought that's really clever because people would know that automatically. They don't really even need to be a fan. They just know. And I looked it up on Google. I was searching to see if it had been done before, and I couldn't find any evidence of anything out there. So I was like, I wonder if people would buy this on a shirt. And at the time, one of my good friends, you might know him, his name's Justin Mabry. He went on to start Trick or Treat Studios with Chris Zeffro. He's done all if you know that company, I mean, he helped form it. And
I don't know him, but I have a lot of his stuff.
Well, yeah, so this was way before that. He had a company called Night Owl Productions, and he did Michael Myers masks and all these other things. So we got to be really good friends. We're the same age. We'd be on the phone for like hours and hours. And I showed him these designs. It was what would Jason do? And this just a regular hockey mask, a Part 6 hockey mask, no text. And I did this like really cheesy Michael Myers. It says Trick or Treat underneath. I mean, I look at these designs now and I go, ew. They're so gross. But he goes, you should put him on my message board, see if people are interested. And I didn't want to like spam his message board with my stuff, but people really liked them. So just based on the response of people saying, hey, that's really cool, I would buy that, I literally over a weekend like coded a website, came up with a name, got a PayPal account to link up to it. Like I did all of that over like 3 or 4 days. And I was just like, and then I ordered 60 shirts, 20 of each design, and it cost me like $600 because I did it online. It was just crazy. And so at the time, like I was living in an apartment with my girlfriend. We were engaged. We didn't have kids or anything yet. And she's like, what the hell are you doing spending $600? Like, we don't have that kind of money. I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm just going to buy some shirts and see if I can sell them. Like, it was literally a whim. I didn't know anything what I was doing. I knew nothing. Yeah. Like, I barely even knew how to get the stuff shipped. You know what I mean? So I just started selling them, and they would sell, here and there. I mean, the first pop on the message board, I got a few orders and stuff. And it was just fun because people would then post about it or like say, hey, I got it. And it was cool. And then people sending me like, whatever that was at the time, $15-$20 for a shirt. And I was like, people are sending me money so I can send them something that they want. Like it was a trip. So yeah, that's really sort of how it got started. And then I just kept at it, even though at some days like there wasn't orders for like 2 or 3 weeks, I would just keep at it.
So what was kind of the big boom moment? Was it social media? Was it when Facebook and all those things kicked off and you could start, really going hard on the online marketing? Was it just e-commerce in general picked up? Like, I guess what made it to get you to the point you're at now, where it's like, I'm sure you're not getting orders every 2 or 3 weeks. I'm sure you're getting many more than that now.
Yeah. I really attribute it to not one thing, really time. It was time. Like, one of my favorite marketers, Seth Godin, coined a phrase, it takes 5 years to become an overnight success. So there were so many nights and days and, at my job when I was supposed to be working, I would be doing this stuff. And at night when I had, free time or whatever, middle of the night or whatever, I was working on either new designs or at all of a sudden seeing like these ideas are beyond what I can do. I'm going to hire a person, you know, a freelancer to do it. It was like slowly just putting drops in a bucket until it filled up. So there were moments though, like 2005 at the end of that, it's actually November 1st. I'll never forget it because it's the day after Halloween. I had been talking to Hot Topic and they actually bought like 2,000 shirts of my Nosferatu design, which it was an equally amazing and scary moment at the time, because if you're familiar with how those types of companies work, and this is every company on a Hot Topic when you're selling wholesale, they'll place the purchase order, but you have to, you know, not only, you know, get the shirts, print them. First of all, there's a 60-page manual you have to read to, like, you have to tag everything, fold them in a certain way. You have to get trucking companies to pick them up, certain, you know, all these logistical things, which is fine for a certain company. Like other companies, for me, it was literally me in my house. And you also have to ship it within like 3 weeks, and they pay you in 90 days after that. So it's like you're out all that money. And at the time, I mean, 2,000 shirts, you know, and I actually really lowballed the price to them. It was a lot of money. I couldn't just afford that. So it was a lot of work. And at the time we had switched over to a guy that was printing out of his garage for us. He did that for like 5 years for us. That was all of our shirts for like the first 5 years were printed out of the garage, except for that first order. And it was a lot of work. And so, but that got me a little bit of exposure because I was able to put my own Fright Rags tag on the shirt. So if they're in stores, it was like a calling card. And then a year later, my What Would Jason Do design actually got cease and desist by New Line because of the hockey mask. So I had to redesign it to make it not look like actually Jason, but people got the idea. And then Hot Topic bought like 8,000 of them. So it was crazy. And again, that was a lot of work, but we had our tag on there. So it's hard to quantify if people found us through there. I wouldn't say business completely blew up after that. I wouldn't say I saw it like, oh my gosh, now we're in Hot Topic and now boom. I mean, first of all, Hot Topic fell off the cliff after that year. Like they didn't order anymore. Everything was over. It dried up. We sell into them now, but I mean, it was not going to be the way forward for my business. I decided I'm going to focus direct to customer only, and which is what we still are for the most part, even though we do some of those wholesale things. We are 90% direct to customer, direct to consumer. It was just time. It was learning more about marketing, learning how to effectively, you know, do email lists and segment emails, or, you know, it was literally, and I'm still doing it now. You learn every day. You just learn something new every single day. So I wouldn't say it was one big thing. There was definitely moments like that Hot Topic and stuff that happened, but it's just been a grind for like almost 20 years.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I feel you on some parts of that. I mean, when you're doing it all by yourself, I'm here by myself. I'm not running I guess, I don't know. Some days it feels like you're running a business. I'm just trying to create content for people that people enjoy. But yeah, it is. It's a lot. And so I give you huge props for taking it all on and just jumping right into it, which I think is the way to go for this type of thing. I tell people that all the time. People always ask me, like, you know, the YouTube stuff, or, you know, how I want a YouTube channel. How do I get as big as yours? And I was like, well, you go back to 2017 and you create 2 or 3 videos a week for 5 years. You're right. It's time. It is just time. I mean, I don't feel that I'm doing anything somebody else couldn't do. Right. I have some skills that I apply to it, and maybe my presentation is good. I don't know. People like me and want to watch the stuff, but I'm not doing anything, you know, average Joe couldn't do. It's just commitment and time. And that is the truth to most of the success of anybody, I think, is just keep plugging away at it. If you enjoy it, it'll get there.
Well, that's it. That's a huge key, because I get that a lot too. How did you start this? How can I do this? And it's like, the thing is, you have to be willing to do it when no one else is looking, when it's not cool, or not that it's not cool, but like when no one else cares. Like I was doing Fright Rags when nobody else knew who I was, cared about what I was doing. It didn't matter to anybody but me, because it was in the middle of the night, you know, especially when I started having kids or whatever, and they're crying and I'm running upstairs trying to deal with them, and I'm working a full-time job, but I was still doing Fright Rags. People want immediate gratification a lot of times. So they'll start something because they're all excited, that momentum of starting something. And then when it falls off and they stop getting orders or stop something, then they're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to give up. And I had a lot of moments like that. I was like, maybe I should just not do this anymore. And then all of a sudden an order would come in. I'd be like, oh, that was kind of cool. Someone just found me randomly. I'll stick it out.
Yeah.
And you just build that momentum. And you're right. You just, people want to be YouTubers and they'll make a video and it gets seen by 2 people and they get all defeated. And it's like, yeah, but you can't do that for years and years and years. And most of the people that are still here started a long time ago and just kept with it and didn't stop,
Yeah. Yeah. No, the overnight, the viral sensation part of business YouTube content, it's a 1 in a million. It's like winning the lottery. It's like, becoming Tom Cruise. I mean, it doesn't happen. Not everyone's going to end up in a Marvel movie.
It's also fleeting. Like you can have a viral moment that pops, but there's no sustenance in there. It's gone a day later. People have moved on. Even like Tom Cruise has made how many movies? He didn't make just one movie. He's made all these movies so he can be Tom Cruise now,
Yeah, and they flop. I mean, the Mummy. I mean, that's not a good choice. But then he does Top Gun again, and it's like, okay, huge. He's back on top. So yeah, I mean, it is. You have to keep at it, even when that is frustrating for people too. You go viral, and I had that feeling at first. I had a couple of videos that did really, really well in the beginning for me anyway, 10, 20,000 views. And I was like, all right, I got this. And the next one gets, 300. But yeah, you just if you enjoy it, then you keep at it and you keep going and growing. So I think that's it. Just time and commitment and, passion too. Passion matters. You've got to like what you're doing. So don't try to YouTube and don't try to create content or start a business around something just because you think it's going to make money. Because that's a
don't do it for the money at all.
Yeah, you'll just fall off. It's got to be something you like to do, or you're going to hate it very quickly. So, good advice. I did want to get back to something you mentioned because I want to ask about this with the cease and desist on the Jason. So, at what point? You start doing, if you do a Halloween t-shirt and you're selling 20 of them, maybe it goes under the radar. At what point did the letters start coming in and you had to start dealing with the licensing to, get Anchor Bay and get Universal, Paramount, whoever on board with what you were doing?
I mean, that, again, took some time. And I knew when I started the company that eventually I would have to have licenses. And in fact, it's funny, the first license I ever got, and I still have it today, I think it was literally within the first few months I started the company, for people who can't see it, but right behind me, there's a poster for Sleepaway Camp 2. That and Part 3, I got the rights to from the director of that movie. And we still have them to this day. But I knew it was a thing that I had to do. I just didn't know how it worked. So I reached out to companies. I even reached out to Trancas and Compass International about Halloween because it's my favorite movie of all time. And I even sent them a shirt that I did that I sold I sold like 31 of them. And I was like, here's an example of our work. And they're like, you can't do this. You know what I mean? It was so like ignorant. Like there's so many mistakes that I made, but I would get these small licenses over the course of a few years. And they were like, little things like no one even knows about and has ever heard about. But it was, every time I got a new license, it was a little feather in the cap and a little learning experience. Like one would have this stipulation that I'd never heard about, so I'd have to Google and learn about it. And then next thing you know, the next one would have that and something else. So it wasn't till when we really started getting into it, it was probably around 2011, 2012, because we had gotten the first sort of pop one that we got that like I thought was like, oh, cool, like a little bit of a bump up was Topps, and we worked with Mars Attacks, and we were able to do a limited edition poster and shirt by Jason Edmiston, and it was a very limited deal, but it was cool because it was a license thing. And then after that, Evil Dead 2, I really think of as our big first license. That was actually 10 years ago because we did it for the 25th anniversary. Now we're doing stuff for the 30th anniversary. And that really started this kind of the ball down the hill, because once you have that or something like that, you can go to another company and be like, well, we have Evil Dead 2 or something. And they might be like, okay. And then you get that license and you go to another company, a bigger company, you start stepping up the ladder. And now we've got 3 licenses or 4 licenses, and it just goes up from there. And so it was a pretty quick thing at that point to start really transitioning. I mean, it still took a few years, but it was more of a direct path as opposed to here and there. And so that was, up until then, I'd only received a few letters, thankfully. I mean, I did have to spend some money out of court, several $1,000s at one point to settle and stuff. But, again, it comes with the business and, when you're doing that kind of stuff. But luckily these days, we don't have to really worry about that anymore because we license everything.
Yeah. And so I mean, you mentioned you went to the director for Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. Is it more typical to go through the production companies or whoever owns the rights, but then do you still have to like run these by a director, or does John Carpenter have to take a look at the Halloween shirts and say, okay, those are good to go?
It all depends. Like for Sleepaway Camp 2, for whatever reason, Michael Simpson owned those two movies outright, 2 and 3, because Robert Hiltzik did the first one, and that was just happened to be a luck of the draw. When I contacted him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I have the rights." But traditionally, you would have to go to the studio that owns it. Or look, it's weird because especially with older films, they were by a smaller company, they got gobbled up by a bigger company, and they got gobbled up by some other company. It is a mess sometimes with some of these old films. Like certain things, Halloween. Well, first of all, the Halloween franchise is chopped up so many different ways. There's like 3 or 4 different. Like we have the rights to all of them, but it's 4 different companies, Yeah. But in some cases, so like for Halloween, we work directly with, it's Trancas Pictures, but Compass was the original name of the company. But we work directly with Mustafa Khan's son and Ryan over there. So we send it directly to them. They approve it. John Carpenter doesn't have to look at it or anything. But in the case of something like E.T., for example, or Jaws, it's Universal, but Steven Spielberg and Amblin have to look at it. So it's a secondary approval process. So we can submit it to Universal, but anything that's Amblin has to go through them, and then they make their notes and send it back through. If it's just another Universal property, then Universal has to approve it. Sometimes talent has rights. So if you have... A lot of times you don't get likeness rights, so you can't use the person's face. But if you can, they might have approval, or you have to get permission from them to use their face in a certain way. So it's every title and everyone is different. Like we've run the gamut at this point. We kind of know what we're getting into, and we kind of already know, like, if we're going to do this film, we probably know what the deal is, and we just have to ask and make sure, okay, which one is it? Do we have full likeness rights? Like there's some times where I was just talking to someone earlier and they're like, oh no, you have full likeness rights for all of the characters in this film. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you. Because it makes it
nothing to worry
easier.
About.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But sometimes you're like, you can't use anything. And you're like, well, then what am I going to do? Like, I'll give you an example. And I think it's because the rights are still a little messed up. But we tried to get Fright Night from Sony, and they're like, you literally cannot use anything from this film except the logo. You can't do anything. And I was like, then I'm not, I mean, it was a lot of money too, like a ton of money, like for that title. And I was like, that's ridiculous. But I think a lot of it is because you're seeing a lot of these writer directors in some cases. And I know you probably know about this with Friday the 13th and other things. The rights are getting all kind of weird if companies hadn't like renewed things. So I think in that case, I think Tom Holland is starting to get some rights back. So they don't want to do anything because they don't want to get sued. So they're like, nope, you can't do anything. We can give you the logo, but that's it. But who's going to use that?
It's an issue. We see that in the physical media all the time. And that Friday the 13th set from Shout Factory was probably nothing short of a miracle that they got everybody on board to sign off on it. There was a reason why you could only get the first 6 or maybe 8 that they would sell in a set, and the others were separate, and it was a mess all over the place. And Fright Night's another one that is hard to get your hands on, and these things it affects everything. It affects so much, and it kind of sucks. It's sad because like a movie like Fright Night is so big, and it sucks that you can't make a good T-shirt for it because all you get's the logo. They can't get it out on Blu-ray or 4K because there's rights issues, and they're worried about it. And then these movies, I don't know. I mean, they start to lose the public eye after a while if you're not out there in the public, where something like Halloween has been so. I feel like. I mean, I don't know. I've never worked with them, but I feel like they're very open to trying new things and doing things and merchandising and posters, shirts. We're going to sell rights to Blumhouse and let them do a trilogy. Like they've been open with allowing that character in that story to pass around. And it's now, I mean, when's the last time you saw Freddy or Jason on the screen? And it's, Michael Myers is front and center for the last few years and is having a resurgence. So I feel
which
like
is ironic
right,
because
everyone else is.
No, I agree, and obviously with Friday the 13th and even Nightmare on Elm Street with the Craven estate with rights reverting back to them in some cases. Like I just think it's what you said. It was great because the irony is in the 80s. You had a new Jason movie every year and a new Freddy movie almost every year, at least towards the end. And you had no new Michael movies for 10 years, you know what I mean? Or 7 years, I should say. Obviously, there was Halloween 3, which I love, but, part 2 came out in 81 and part 4 came out in 88. So there was a gap, you know what I mean? Where in between that, you had all these Jason movies. But now it's like Michael is everywhere. And yeah, Jason and Freddy, it's like you gotta keep them alive. And unfortunately, I know there's been merch in the past, but moving forward, there's really not going to be any new merch unless they get this deal taken care of. I mean, there is no new merch. I've talked to Warner Brothers. We cannot get the rights to Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. And anybody who has the rights right now can only put out the stuff that was approved before all this happened. So it's because
there is. I know the Friday the 13th issues. Is there a similar issue with Nightmare on Elm Street? Because I sort of know, but I don't know as in depth as Friday.
I don't actually know it as in depth either. My understanding, from what I've heard, is there's something to do with the Freddy character being owned by the Craven estate. So I think that hurts the ability to create new movies and things. I could be wrong about that, but that was my understanding when I've talked to people that was sort of the holdup. And so now the rights for certain things have been broken up. I feel like Warner probably still has the rights to the films, maybe, and distribution, but then with the character involved. So I don't know. I actually don't know the full scoop on that one. I just know that, we couldn't even if they wanted to give us the rights, like because Warner Brothers is one of those studios that we haven't been able to get into for whatever reason. And I've talked to them literally every few months and been to their offices. I mean, we've met several times and they just don't want to take any other licensees on right now, which it is fine. They've got other things to do. They've got the Harry Potter franchise. They're doing other big things, Lord of the Rings and stuff. But so it's not a big deal for them. But even if they were like, we'll give you the rights to all these other films, we still couldn't get Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. So, I mean, I was told that out flat out. So,
yeah, it's got me wondering because there hasn't been a Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm thinking Blu-ray, and everyone always asks, where is the complete set of that's been, restored and remastered? Shout Factory did the first 5 Halloweens on 4K. It sounds like they're probably going to do the rest of them this year. There's rumors. I mean, it makes sense. They did the Friday the 13th. Where's Freddy? Where's Nightmare on Elm Street? And there hasn't been anything in there. There's one standard package you can still buy, I think, with all the movies, but it's an old
I've got that one.
Release. Yeah, I mean, that's what everyone has, but we're like, well, where's the big, box set that celebrates this? And there's been absolutely nothing and no rumors and no real talk about it. So it makes sense. And there is always that issue of Wes Craven owns Freddy, and everything around Freddy in the movie is Warner Brothers. And it's like, well, you can't do much without Freddy. So that's kind of stuck in the mud there. Interesting. I've heard that about some other movies where it's like they own the character, but not the story and not the franchise, but just the individual character who's the biggest character and is essential. So it's tough, but I see the same thing happening with physical media releases. It's hard, but as a collector, we always want the latest and greatest, and it does suck that these iconic characters, Jason and Freddy, are kind of out of the limelight right now. And I see Michael Myers on TikTok now trending, and I'm like, yeah, he's got longevity. People are doing this Michael Myers challenge where they you send one of your friends to try to run and unlock the door of the house while you walk behind him and see if you can catch up before he gets in.
That's pretty cool. I haven't seen that one, but I gotta check that out.
It's been going around some of the movie channel, the TikToks that I follow. It's just like, I'm gonna walk at normal speed, you run and try to get in the house. We'll see how realistic it is for him to kill you. And half the time the people can't get in, and their friends are getting them with a wiffle ball bat. but it's just amazing because they're like 16, 18, 20 years old. And it's like Michael Myers is front and center. That's the guy. You see him everywhere. Freddy and Jason are gone. Sucks because they shouldn't be. They're great. They're great characters. Michael Myers is my favorite. I don't know about you. Halloween's still my favorite, but
I mean, Michael is. I mean, it's funny because I love Jason's, and I always love watching Friday the 13th because I feel like as a whole that franchise, as crazy as it is, it feels more cohesive. Whereas Halloween's always been a choose your own adventure, which timeline you want to follow. I mean, Michael will always be my madness. It is. It totally is. But the multiverse of Myers, right? It really. But I think it's still my favorite. I mean, Michael is just. He's the one that got me started in all of this and as a kid. So, I mean, that's my favorite, and to see other kids like that on TikTok and doing this stuff is great. Cause like you said, it's continuing on this legacy. And what I love about the new trilogy is it's a new look for Michael. So now you're seeing that look become almost as iconic as the original mask. And obviously they're very similar, but this one's old and decrepit and stuff, but you're seeing people wear that mask around. Like you're not seeing people that much in a Halloween 4 mask or 5 mask, right? You're seeing them in either a part 1 or a 2018 mask. And I think that speaks to, again, the fandom. Like we're doing shirts for it. NECA's doing toys for it. This is like, it's for us, of our age, but it's also for younger people that are coming up into this. And I don't know, it's great to see it and celebrate it. And it should be for these other franchises too.
I know. Hopefully they'll get there someday. They'll all work out their legal stuff and we'll get there. Cause you're right. I feel the same way. Like Halloween was the one that got me into this and I probably watched it way too young, but I watched it on AMC to be fair. So it was like a TV cut when they do their fear. What do they call it? Fear Fest every year. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's what I was. I'd come home from school, and if it was October, I knew like October 1st through the end of October, that's what I'm doing when I come home in the 4th grade or whatever. And I'm just watching whatever they put on. So it's usually Halloween. But yeah, I love the new franchise too.
I saw the network premiere of Halloween on October 30th, 1981.
I wasn't around for that one.
I was 4 years old, and I was literally at like our friends, friends of ours, like own this deli. They lived in it, like behind it and above it. And we were just over there hanging out like for a Halloween party. And my brothers and sister were off and those other kids were off. My mom was like, I was bored. My mom was just like, go watch TV. And I was like, okay. I sat down and clicked on one of the 3 channels, and it was NBC, and it was the movie, Friday night movie. And I actually bought the TV guide from that week. So I have that, cause I just love all that stuff. And I literally sat there just 2 feet away from the TV watching that movie. And that's like, at that point I was like, I don't even know what I just watched. But as a 4-year-old, I was just like, I need to see more of that. And that's when, video stores just started coming out. We just bought a Betamax. We didn't even have VHS. And I would look at all the movies and be like, who has like a mask and is killing people? Like, it's all I wanted to see. And my parents, I was the youngest of 4. They let me watch this stuff. No one else was into it. It was just me. So yeah, Halloween, I'm right there with you in terms of seeing it too young. So.
Oh yeah. I think I probably saw Jaws around the age of 4 or 5. That one while staying on the Cape. So that one had an impact.
Oh,
yeah. There was a Cape House. I always tell a story, but my grandparents had a Cape House and they had Jaws on VHS, and I'm like 5 years old. I go watch that, and then I go to the beach, and it's like no fear at that time. I mean, there were no sharks. There were actually no sharks on the Cape at that time. Now it's like, now you go and you're living it real life. Wow. But I did the same with Halloween and a bunch of other stuff I probably watched way too young, but I mean, it didn't hurt me.
We turned out okay.
That's what I love, the whole, like, you'll see it online and it's like, oh, that guy, he watched too many scary movies and it screwed him all up. And it's like, I don't know if that's what did it. Probably not, since there are billions of us who have watched the same movies and not gone insane. So I'd probably say he's the outlier. I do wonder though, when you started, this brings up a question I want to ask. So you're in like 2003, there's not a bunch of horror movie merchandise. It was almost probably weird to wear something like this. People probably looked at you sideways versus how like it's pretty accepted now. Like it was sort of this counterculture. Did you get any like blowback from any like crazy like groups or anything who are like, how dare you put this on a shirt, this killer on a shirt and sell it? Or I'm curious because I feel like that was always a thing. Maybe it was past this, but like the satanic panic and everything in the 80s and 90s, it was like if you wore a Halloween shirt in the 90s, people were probably like, all right, that guy's in a cult and he's killing goats and maybe kids and like is crazy. It was just so absurd. Did you ever get any sort of feedback?
I don't remember, probably because, first of all, especially in the first few years, none of those people would have known about me, right? I was so under the radar with what I was doing that it was just the people that would have worn the stuff that knew about Fright Rags, right? I mean, over the years, people. I think exactly. I think over the years, we've probably received, especially now with social media. And it's so funny. Sometimes I'll jump on social media and see like stuff that we post and people will be like, they'll say something. I'll be like, are you following us? Like, why would you follow us if you think like that's too, like, I don't understand why this, I mean, I understand things pop up in your feed and maybe the hashtags we use, I don't know, but I'm like, if you're that far on one side of things, how did we show up in your radar? And like, why are you following us? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get it, but whatever. I just kind of go, I don't know, whatever. It is what it is. I just keep doing our thing. I mean, some people actually, it's the other way sometimes where people be like, that's not horror. Or you're like, we get this one person's like, you're playing it too safe. You're always playing it too safe with what you're doing. And I'm like, well, what do you want us to do? Like, I don't honestly personally don't feel like doing Cannibal Holocaust or like, Serbian film. This is not what I would do on a shirt. So I don't know what you want us to do, but like, we're doing things that we like. And also some of that stuff you can't get rights to very easily. So, people might not like us doing E.T. or like Dark Crystal or something, but I'm like, yeah, but I was a fan of that stuff. So I'm going to do it. And it's still within my wheelhouse. So if you don't like it, you can keep scrolling. No one's forcing you to buy it. It's, what I mean?
True. And that stuff, even E.T., Dark, that stuff's like sort of horror adjacent. Like it is. I mean, those are the types of movies that maybe those are the ones you should watch when you're 5, and that sort of gets you into it a little bit. Because I mean, E.T.'s got some scenes that I remember as a kid being like, "This is terrifying." When the government comes in and strips the whole house, and the kids in the clean room, and they got the hazmat suits. I mean, that's scary stuff. That's not.
I saw that in the theater when so that came out in '82, so it's 40 years ago. So that was the summer of '82, so I was 4 at the time, and that was after I saw Halloween. So that was because I saw that in October '81. I was probably more scared of E.T. because I did not want him to die. I cried my eyes out and screamed all the way home, like after the movie, and like ran inside because my mom wasn't with us. It was my dad took up me and my brothers and my sister. I ran inside and I told my mom, "You almost died." I was upset about that movie. And that's still one of my top probably 3 films of all time. But anyway, awesome. So it's just funny when people are like, that's not horror enough. And I'm like, okay, like, did we say we are only going to do this one thing? I understand we're called Fright Rags, but like, I like that movie too,
Right. Yeah. You don't have to put yourself in, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself. I mean, and there is clearly an attachment from those movies to, at least those are movies that probably developed some horror fans because they saw that when they were 5, 6, 7 years old. And, it ties back in. I do. How do you feel about those movies? Like the Serbian film, the Cannibal Holocaust, the stuff like that? Because I draw a line, I think, for myself right around Hostel, maybe, is where I draw a line. And I go, that's about as dark as I want to get before it just turns into real, just, I don't know, depravity. And I don't know. I can't watch those. I don't enjoy them. I know some people do, and they really like them. And people always ask me to review this or that. And I'm like, guys, I gotta be honest. Like, I don't even own them. I don't really want to own them. I feel bad owning them. So I just stay away from that stuff. But there is that there's that community within a community of horror who wants everything to be like sort of hardcore. And it's not enough. The Halloween movies, even that have come out recently, which are pretty gory. It's like, we want more. There should have been more. It's like, those are brutal on a mainstream scale. Like, those are brutal. But I just can't get into that other stuff.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not into it either. Like, when I was younger, I watched stuff like I Spit on Your Grave and Last House on the Left. And I'll be honest, like, even I Spit on Your Grave, I mean, I think I've only seen it once because I can't. It's not one of those. Hey, it's Friday night. I want to pop on. I spit on your grave and grab some popcorn. Like
No.
that's not a movie. It is. And again, I respect that film. We did shirts for it. Was it last year, 2 years ago? And actually, they contacted us about doing shirts again for the anniversary. And I think it has its place. And I love the fact that people have taken ownership over that film and used that as like a way to help them process things that happen in their life. And I've seen that a lot online. So I respect that it exists. I can't sit there and go, I want to watch that movie because that just I can't. It's so hard to watch the first half, obviously. But it's funny, like, I like Cannibal Holocaust and those films, even the Serbian film. That's not something I gravitate to. And especially, I've gotten older. I have kids. I'm just in a different spot in my life. So when I want to sit down and watch a movie, it does. And I listen, we watched, like, we do this terror tweet every Saturday night with my friends. We live tweet movies. And like we watched, it was a first time watch for me. Actually, it was the remake of Hills Have Eyes. I've seen the original. And there's definitely some moments in that film that I was not expecting and people were kind of bracing me for it. But I was in this weird mindset that night where I was just having a really good time with it. Like, not that I was laughing at it, but not in a jokey way, just sort of like, this is crazy. Like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And so, but that's got some moments in it where you're like, ooh, okay, that's disturbing. But I don't go to that stuff for fun. I want to sit back and be entertained. And I do love blood and gore. And I love the fact that the new Halloween films are more brutal. And I'm into it, but there's a line that I draw for sure.
Yeah. No, I hear you too. I think people assume because horror is probably my number one. That's my genre. That's the one I gravitate towards. And so people are always like, well, do this, do that. Or some of these Japanese films that have been made that I'm just like, I can't even look at the cover of that DVD. Never mind watch it. It's just too much for me. I mean, I'm sure there's some artistic merit to it, and I don't know because I've never seen them. And if I respect the people who make them, and they have their reasons, like you said. I mean, it might help you process something, or there's reasons why movies like that get made. But man, I can't sit through them. Maybe I'm getting soft as I get older, but I started once I had my kid, and then like you're just like, man, the world's rough enough as it is. Do I need to put myself through this? Like, I could just watch the news.
Dude, I'm with you. And I'll tell you, like you said about the kids, like when I had my first child, my daughter, back in 2006, I remember, I would be up with her at night and I would watch movies. And I remember, I watched Cujo one night. And I cried my eyes out, and I'd seen that movie 1,000 times. Pet Sematary, I've seen that movie hundreds of times. I literally, I could not watch that movie for about 10 years. Like, I was like, nope. Like, because that wrecked me so much. I mean, again, I've seen the movie many, many times. I've read the book. I obviously I know everything that's going to happen. I've seen it. It's just, I couldn't deal with it because for a little while when I had my kids, it really affected me. Now they're older, so it feels a little like I can watch more stuff like that and not worry as much. Although you're still a parent, so it still affects you in a way. But when they were real young, I was like, I can't do it. This is too much for me. Yeah,
I'm sort of in that phase right now. It's like if the kid's like under 10 years old and they're in the movie, and I know that even if I've seen it before, but I know like, oh, something horrible is going to happen. I'm like, no, I guess I need a 10-year break too until they're like teenagers. And then I don't know, maybe I'll be able to process it better. And for some reason, I don't know, I never have an issue with like the teenage babysitters getting picked up.
I know, right? Like my daughter's turning 16 this year. And I'm like, a lot of these kids in these movies are around that age, or they're supposed to be that age, right? And
they're really
for whatever
35.
reason, that doesn't bother. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why it doesn't bother me as much. But I'm like, my daughter's around the age that I started watching, the movies that I watched.
Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis, right? Was only 18, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's a weird thing to think about. I never really thought about that until you just mentioned that. But for sure, like when they were much younger, it was a harder deal. But you'll be fine when your kids are a little older.
That's what I figured. Then you can watch them with them, right? And then it becomes more enjoyable to watch.
Dude, my son is 12. Yeah, my daughter doesn't like the movies so much, but my son is 12, and he watches everything. In fact, he'll watch stuff like he watched Stranger Things before I did, and I was like, oh my god, like I just finished it up last night finally. But we talk about that. But we can watch, and he loves Halloween. He loves all the older horror movies. He watches the new stuff, like, and it's cool because like I took him to see the new Scream. I took him to see the new Halloween movie. Like we were enjoying it together, and that's really cool because he seems to genuinely like it. He's not like he's trying to like it because of me, which is good because I don't look if they don't like it, they don't like it. It's fine, but he's genuinely into this stuff. So it's like I can share my love of it with him because my wife's not really not into it. Obviously, my daughter's not into it. So, you know, I got someone in the house that likes it.
Yeah, no, I we'll see. We're still too young to find out. He's only 10 months, but I do take him in, and I take him in the room. And the other day I put him in front of the, because I'm not trying to like desensitize him, but I'm trying to be like, hey, like Dad has some crazy stuff in the house that I just want you to get used to. And yeah, he thinks it's hilarious. I don't know why. I was just like, I have my Michael Myers. I have like a whole bust that a guy created. I put the Trick or Treat Studios.
I saw that. It looks great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the guy who did it, Slash House Studios. Incredible work. But I go in there and I'm just like poking him on the nose and like making a funny noise. And he's like laughing at it. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is, you know, nothing to be afraid of. Fictional character. We don't need to freak out. There are many more things you can be afraid of in life. Don't worry about Uncle Mikey over here. He's just going to watch over you.
So, in my old office at my old house, before we moved here, I had all my masks up. They're at my main office now, like our office warehouse, but like in my home office, I had all my Michael Myers masks, Jason masks, Freddy bust, gloves, everything up. And my kids loved that. And their friends were always scared to go in that room. And my kids were like, what are you scared of? They'd wear the masks. It was like, I have video of my son sitting eating breakfast and he's got Michael Myers and Freddy next to me. He's like, that's Michael Myers. That's Freddy. And he's like, he's blue, he's black or red. And like, he's listening to the music and like, he couldn't eat. It was like a stretch of like 2 or 3 months when he was like literally 2 years old. He would not eat like breakfast without them next to him. Like he had to have them there. I'm like, okay, fine. So you're right. It is a form of desensitization, but not in a bad way. You're just, you know, making sure they're not
more just like stuff. There's nothing to be afraid of here.
Right.
If you want something to be afraid of, I mean, let's sit down and we can talk. We can talk about things to be afraid of. But no, I am. I'm not like purposely trying to be like, don't be afraid of things and don't ever cry and don't, you know, be a tough guy. Like, no, but at the same time, like this is not the stuff that should freak you out. But you're right. Exactly. I've had my wife has younger siblings and like she's got a 12-year-old brother who stayed over. And when they stay over, my home office and movie room is the third bedroom. So it's like they stay in here on an air mattress. And he was like, can you turn all the masks around so that they're not looking at me when I sleep? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. I totally get why that might be weird in the middle of the night. Granted, I don't sleep in this room, so maybe it is a little scarier at 2 a.m. when you wake up and they're peering down at you. But I get it. I totally get it. I did want to ask about your collection, though, because I feel like you have... we talked a little bit about it before we even get on here, about you have like the original Halloween poster and Halloween 2, 4, and 5, I think you said you had. And
1, 2, 4, and 5 I have originals of,
which is unbelievable, like incredible. And then I love the posters behind you. We were talking the artwork on those. It's awesome. Like what are some of the big things in the collection, and like what's your movie collection like too, I guess? Like are you pretty much focused on horror, or do you spread out?
Yeah, so movie wise, I have a movie like theater room right behind this wall behind me. So okay. I have I've got a projector, it's 4K 3D, I've got a 110-inch widescreen, and I've got 7.1.2 sound in there. And I've got everything's housed in a closet behind it, so nothing's in the room itself except the little porthole where the projector beams out. Yeah. And all my movies. So I've probably got. I think I've got about 12 or 1,300 DVDs. Most of them are Blu-rays, but I've been getting way more 4Ks lately and replacing ones. And I'm the type of person, as soon as I get a 4K version of the movie, as long as there's no extra version or something on the Blu-ray, I get rid of it. Yeah. Like I don't usually, unless it's something like Halloween where I keep everything. Same thing with DVD. I used to have all DVDs, and now I only have a few DVDs because I've replaced everything. So I've circulated out a lot of movies. But it is probably, I'd probably say 90% horror and then 10% just stuff that I like, comedies, whatever. And I still buy them all the time. I'm still buying a bunch of stuff, and there's still a ton that I haven't even watched, and I just bought, what I mean? Because I want to have it for the collection. As far as like stuff, like I have a bunch of figures and masks at the office. I've got our conference room has tons of like trick or treat masks that I've gotten, but I've also got like the stuff that my friend, Justin Mabry made from Trick or Treat Studios, like his own custom stuff that I've had for years, or I have like a custom Freddy silicone mask. I have some custom Freddy gloves that Anders from Nightmare Gloves made. I've had those for a long time. And so some of the other things that I'm just kind of like looking around here, I've got some things that I really love are animation cells. I don't have a ton of them, but I have like Garfield's Halloween Adventure was a huge deal for me when I was a kid. I still have it. First aired in 1985, and I have it taped on beta. And we were actually able to work with Jim Davis and do shirts for it for the anniversary. Well, now it was 7 years ago, I guess, because it was 2015. But I have one of the cells matted and framed from when they're looking at the haunted house, and it's signed by Jim Davis, like Happy Halloween, Jim Davis.
That's awesome.
I've got animated cells from Creepshow 2, because that's like one of my favorites. And the bumper sequence from that. So I've got the one where the kid's up in the Venus flytrap. I actually met the animator, and he sold me some of the originals, and that one's pretty big. And I've got another one where he's got the magazine. And as a kid, my favorite show was He-Man. I've got 2 animated cells from that. So that's cool. And that's not something I'm actively seeking to like buy, but when it comes across, like when I can get, and it makes sense for me to get it, like if it's He-Man or something like that, I'm like, I gotta have it. Honestly, like I don't collect as much. I don't want to say I don't collect as much horror stuff anymore, but it's like I have a lot, and it's like, I don't need to keep adding a lot, especially because I also keep the stuff that we do. And we've been doing some figures and lunch boxes and stuff. So it's like, I have that, like, I got to find a place for that stuff. And so I also need to find places for all these other things. So, I guess one of the other standouts in my collection, I have a few movie props. So like on my bookshelf over there, I have some of the books they used from Rob Zombie's Halloween, the Dr. Loomis books. I've got a few of those props, and some of the screen used name plates and stuff from the people in the asylum. And from Friday the 13th, 2009, I have the hockey stick that they used. I have the machete that when she's crawling through the tunnel at the end and he stabs her, spoiler alert, I have that machete, and it's cool because it's broken in half with a big metal piece around it. So you put her on your shoulder, and so it looks like it's going through you. Then I have at the very end of that movie, if you remember, that wood chipper, he gets caught in it and gets pulled up. And when he breaks the beam and lands, and he picks up that piece of wood and smacks that dude over the head, I have that piece of wood. It's actually foam, but it's made it look like wood. So I have those, which is cool. And I've just got a bunch of other stuff that I've collected over the years, but like, those are the things that I, are probably like my more, I guess, prized possessions because they're unique, like I love figures and masks and stuff, and I still collect some of those things, but it's, I don't know. To me, as I'm getting older, it's just the space things take up. You feel like you're more a steward of all these things, and you have to figure out where to put it all. Like, for example, like during COVID, because I play guitar, I started collecting more guitars. Like you can see some on my back wall there, but to me, I've focused a little bit more on that because it's a functional thing, and I can play it and not just have to dust it off every couple of months or something. Not that there's again, I love collecting. It's just I've probably cooled off a little bit on getting all the stuff that all the stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that comes out all the time. It's hard to keep up.
There is. And it's been a recurring topic with anybody I've talked to that has a collection, and it made me rethink my stuff, was just like how you curate, and for everything from down, from the movies. And, I purged, I talked about this in the movie room video I did, but I purged probably 400 or 500 discs that I was like, wow, I just don't need them. I'm just not going to watch them. I don't need them. I will say I didn't get rid of a single horror movie because I refuse to, because no matter how bad or good it is, I'm like, I can't do it. But I purged a lot of stuff, and I have been way pickier with like what I buy when it comes to posters. And like I used to be like, okay, yeah, Shout Factory's putting out this release, and yep, I'm going to pay the $50 and get the poster and the 2 slipcovers, and it was like, okay, and then that's going to sit in a tube for 5 years because I don't have a place to hang the poster. So I've been way pickier on what I get, and I've kind of gone in harder on specifically the stuff I like, the Halloween stuff. Like you, I've kept all my releases, the VHS tapes, the Blu-rays. I have some signed stuff that John Carpenter signed for me, and I keep that. I keep all the Jaws stuff because that's my number 1 movie. And I am hunting down props, although I'll say for those 2 movies, it's like you better hit the lottery to get a prop from Jaws or Halloween. Yeah. Maybe someday I'll get lucky. But yeah, those are the kind of things like I do really want to curate, and it is important because you don't want it to turn into like it almost becomes like a mental health issue at a certain point where you're like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed and anxious about even walking into this room because there's stuff everywhere. And when you hit that point, it's not good. And it's like, you're not enjoying it anymore. So get rid of some stuff, keep the stuff you really like, and get pickier with what you buy. After talking to a lot of people on this podcast, I've definitely said, yep, I need to get pickier and I need to get, more curated. And I've felt way better about walking into this room in the last couple of months. So it's weird. This podcast has been like collector therapy almost. It's been very helpful for the collector in me. But it's I totally get where you're coming from.
I need that too, because like I'm the same way. Like this is like a kind of a, well, it's an addition to our house. So this is my home office. I have the movie theater room back there. There's a kitchen and full bathroom. It's a nice area, and it's mostly windows. So that's why I don't have a lot of wall space to put stuff up. And then I have my office warehouse downtown, but I still have like right beneath me in our this is underneath this part of the house. There's a crawl space. I've got, well, first of all, probably got over 1,000 t-shirts under there because I keep one of everything. So that's literally taking up space, and in the warehouse too. But I've got all this stuff in boxes, and you're right. Like if you start walking in here, like there'll be times I purge, like I have a bookshelf over here. I just purged a bunch of books. I'll look around and things and be like, I'm never going to do anything with this. I need to just either donate it or sell it or just give it to somebody. Like same thing with the movies. Like I probably have a stack of 100 to 200 movies in my movie room right now that I need to get rid of. And a lot of times we'll do giveaways on Instagram. It's like we give away popcorn in a movie. So we'll just give them out. Sometimes I just write notes on them and put them in people's orders and don't even think about it. Or people at my office, they'll be like, oh, you got that? Can I, I'll bring a stack in, then I'll be like, have at it. If you want them, take them. Like it's That's totally cool with me. Cause it's just, if it's going to somebody that's appreciating it, then it's fine. Like very rarely have I gotten rid of something that I've really missed, The one thing I did purchase recently in the past year, that was probably one of the craziest things that I've gotten in recent times, other than like the guitars that I buy, but was that Halloween pinball machine. That thing it was like collector's limited edition one they did. I'm like, I gotta have that. So that's at the office. And that is a lot of fun. I'm glad I got that because it was fun to play, but that was a splurge.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. But that's the kind of stuff that it is. Like you said, I would definitely rather the movies go to somebody. Like I sold a bunch in bulk for $1 or $2 to somebody who wanted to start a collection. And it was like good stuff. It wasn't like I was dumping bad stuff. Some of it was upgrades. Some of it was stuff I had duplicates of, because people, once they find out you collect movies, then people start giving you movies. And it's like, I have 80% of what most people give me because it's all the popular stuff that everybody owns. So yeah, I felt better about that, and I've donated some, and even given some stuff away to my wife was a teacher before we had the kid. Now she stays home, but I'd be like, hey, I got this t-shirt for this movie that came in. Like, I don't know, give it away, give it to some kid in your class. It's like a medium t-shirt. It's not going to fit me for any, never in my entire life. Like, give it away, or give them away some of the toys or something. So I feel way better about that than just like having everything sitting around. So yeah, it's an important lesson that you learn, I think, as you as the space starts to close in on you, like you're in the trash compactor in Star Wars. That's how it feels sometimes. And that's when I said, okay, it's time. But,
yep. No, I'm with you, man. You end up becoming custodian of all this stuff, and you're just like, eh. Oh, I will say, sorry, I was just thinking about two other things in my collection that are probably a prize because we were just talking about these movies, but I do have an original 35 millimeter print of Halloween, and I've got one of Halloween 4, and then I've also got Lady in White, which was one of my favorites as a kid, and then the other movie Frank did was Loja did was Fear No Evil. He sold those prints to me himself. Those were actually his original master prints that he made, that he was shopping around to studios, and he actually sold them to me because he made that movie in and around Rochester, and I just love that, Lady in White specifically, and Fear No Evil as well. But yeah, Halloween. So that was another one, like Halloween, the 35 millimeter print. Like we have been showing that at a local theater every year since I bought it like several years ago. And the studio lets us, show it. And they usually don't let people show prints of it because those prints are gnarly. Like, in fact, I was told by the theater this year, because they clean it for me and they take care of it. And they're like, you probably shouldn't show this again. It's going to be, you're going to risk something to it. So now it's just like in a collection. And Halloween 4 is actually a pristine print. But I started on that rabbit hole, and it, like you were just saying, in terms of like, I can't keep collecting this stuff because it's going to take up a lot of room and a lot of money. And so I'm glad I got Halloween. That's like, I'm good.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah. Anything like it's your favorites. I mean, if Halloween's your favorite, then you go and hunt down everything, for Halloween. And if something comes up, you're not going to say no. I mean, that's the way I am. Like I said, I won't buy those Show Factory releases, but they did limited editions for Halloween, and I bought all of those.
Oh yeah, so me too.
I bought the big box set with the poster and the vinyl and everything because I was like, it's Halloween. Now, if you do that for something else, even other John Carpenter stuff that I love, I probably just get the standard stuff. But Halloween specifically, Jaws specifically, there's a few that I'll splurge on. So I think it's a healthy way to collect, though. I'd recommend it to anybody.
I agree.
Do a purge every once in a while. You'll feel, you really will. It's hard at first, but like you'll feel good about it when you're done. You really will. And like you said, you end up not missing. If you're willing to put it in a box and say, I'm going to purge this, you're not going to miss it, realistically. Yep. You might miss it for a minute when it goes out of sight, and then you're going to forget you even owned it. I can't even tell you what I gave away a couple months ago. Like I don't remember because I wasn't going to watch them again. I couldn't name the movies. So it's healthy.
Same here. Yeah, I'm with you.
But yeah, so I've got to jump off here because this is my lunch break. If anyone's wondering why all the podcast episodes are like roughly 1 hour on the dot, that would be because I work the real job and I do these on lunch break a lot of times. So that is why they're almost like 1 hour exactly, unless I get somebody at night or on a weekend, which is tough for me too because I'm busy. They're always like an hour. So I hate being like, all right, it's been an hour. But I think this is a really good conversation. And as always, like I'd love to have you back and we can talk about, whatever, if something comes up, and we'll keep working together. I do want to plug our promo code because you Films at Home listeners, watchers, Films at Home 10, you get 10% off at Fright Rags. So I'll put the links in the episode descriptions on YouTube and on Spotify and everywhere. Use the code, get 10% off, and get yourself a couple shirts because I'm telling you, I've got this Boogeyman Club, and you guys are going to want that. And I got, what the other two I got? I got the Jaws crew t-shirt, which I loved. So cool. I'm going to wear that on the Cape this summer and make, nobody's going to think I was working on the movie, but I want them to. And then Escape from New York. But there's so many more. And honestly, I'll say this, and I meant to bring this up earlier. I have such a hard time with graphic t-shirts because I'm 6'2" and a half, pushing 6'3". I'm not a small guy. I'm 250, 260 pounds. Double XL does not mean the same thing everywhere you go. I have had some that are belly shirts and some that are like, okay, I look like I'm wearing a cardboard box. And I have to say, the Fright Rag stuff, it's like, it's long enough for me, but it's not super wide. So it gives you a nice, like, it has a form to it, which you don't always get with bigger shirts. Like I just have to give you props because I have bought and thrown away or donated so many graphic tees, especially like movie stuff, because they can be a dime a dozen sometimes. Yeah. And your stuff just fits better than probably anything I've got. It has some good like stretch to it, and it fits. So if you're a bigger guy, Fright Rags, I'd recommend. You'll get an actual authentic size double XL that doesn't look like a tarp, which is always the key. Sometimes they just go wider and they don't get longer.
Yeah,
you know? So,
it's true. I've seen that too, where you hold them up against each other and like, what's different? And they just one side, one dimension goes, and like, the other ones are like,
I didn't get any shorter. I'm still 6'2", just because I ordered a bigger. I could wear like an extra large if they were long enough, but they never make them. So it's always double XL, and then you have to guess. But Fright Rags, props to you. So if you're a big guy or a small guy or girl or whatever, they've got the size and the stuff fits nice. So I recommend it.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'll definitely, I'll be getting some more, and I keep wearing them in my videos because I love them. And I think other people love seeing them. I always get comments when I wear the shirts, like the Boogeyman Club or,
awesome.
It's just, I love it. Ties in with the channel nicely too. Instead of me wearing just my plain gray t-shirts, I can finally mix in some movie stuff. So
yeah, there you go.
Appreciate you guys and what you're doing, and the designs you're putting out are great. So props to you and the team and any of the artists you got out there working and the graphic designers. Like it's top notch stuff, and the quality's great. So there's
awesome. Thanks, man.
There's my 2-minute ad pitch for Fright Rags for you. But it is. I believe in it. It is good stuff, guys. So seriously, Joe, go check them out. I'll leave all those links. And where can they find you? Should I just we talking like Twitter, Fright Rags, Instagram, Fright Rags? Is that the best place?
Yeah, Twitter and Fright Rags, or Twitter and Instagram both at Fright Rags.
Yep.
And dabbling in TikTok a little bit more these days, but not a ton.
Love it.
We'll see where that goes.
Talk to me. But, I'll do. We can work it out.
All right, cool. Yeah, because I know I gotta jump on there. I gotta start following more people. So I gotta follow you. I gotta jump on and start. It's one of those things I don't think about enough, and I should. So
it's hard, but it seems to work for everybody. Like no matter what your product or content is, I didn't expect TikTok to become anything, and I've got like 70,000 followers on TikTok right now. So
that's great.
I mean, it's gonna like surpass YouTube soon. It's crazy, but it's awesome at the same time. So finding new people. So we'll talk about that one. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Definitely have you back, and make sure you guys check out Fright Rags. All those links will be in the description, and follow them on social, and definitely go buy some shirts and get 10% off. Can't beat that.
Exactly.
So, all right, Ben. Well, I appreciate it. I'll let you go, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right, everyone. So that was our interview with Ben. I hope you enjoyed that. Ben is a super cool guy, obviously a really hard worker. He built this thing from the ground up himself, and I always, really admire people who do things like that. It's especially as somebody who's been trying to build this content creation business, whatever you want to call it, from the ground up myself. I really resonated with me, his story, and I feel like I learned a lot in there. And maybe if you're thinking about starting a business, or you're just curious at the behind the scenes of a place like Fright Rags, and how these pieces of merchandise come together, and all the licensing, and sort of his story. I loved the transparency and all the behind the scenes he gave us. So hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want more like this, make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, or make sure you're subscribed on YouTube so you get the video podcast. And remember, code Films at Home 10, Films at Home 10, all one word. You'll get 10% off at frightrags.com. So go support them. Ben is a great guy. They have absolutely incredible t-shirt quality, which I know I talked about at the end of the episode. Can't beat the quality, and their artwork and the graphics on their shirts are just incredible. So go support them. Films at Home 10 will get you 10% off. But appreciate Ben coming on. We'll definitely have to have him back and work together with him and Fright Rags on some more stuff. So thanks everyone for listening / watching wherever you are. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon.
Coming soon. Be sure to subscribe to the Films at Home podcast using your favorite app so you don't miss another episode. And while you're there, don't forget to rate and review this podcast, which helps us out tremendously. You can also help support us by watching our short form content over on YouTube and TikTok by searching Films at Home. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at films_at_home. The intro and outro were created by Elin Osborne. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.